Let us now introduce contestant number 4, Ms. Lee Ming Yan. The title of her speech is Honesty Always the Best Policy? You now have 3 minutes. You may begin after the bell rings.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've all heard of George Washington's famous quote, "Honesty is always the best policy." To be honest is to be frank, to believe in the spirit of full disclosure instead of keeping things secret. But is this really the best policy when it comes to public interest? In many aspects of today's world, society runs on the belief that public interest justifies the disclosure of confidential information. For example, in the medical field, patients have a right to privacy, but doctors can breach this privacy when the interests of the society are at stake. So, as you can see, disclosure is certainly in the public interest most of the times. But what people fail to realize is that confidentiality does not necessarily run counter to public interest either. In fact, confidentiality can also be in the interest of the society sometimes. Take the Executive Council as an example. The confidential nature of its meetings allows its members to advise the chief executive freely and honestly, without worrying about coming under public scrutiny. Disclosing the proceedings of these meetings would discourage people from joining the council, where they can serve Hong Kong and ultimately benefit the public. In scenarios like this, whether or not confidentiality should outweigh disclosure is simply a matter of weighing the competing public interests. Yet, what is true public interest? Often, private agendas such as political gain or commercial gain are masked under the pretense of public interest. Politicians often divulge information to shed negative light on their competitors. Celebrity journalism also uses the excuse of public interest to cover up their disrespect for people's privacy, when in reality, scandalous revelations about celebrities' private lives are nothing more but teenage titillation that doesn't affect the society in general. So, ladies and gentlemen, because confidentiality and public interest are not a dichotomy, it is not possible to determine whether one overrides the other. The ultimate goal is always public interest, but whether you achieve that through disclosure or through confidentiality is a delicate weighing exercise. So, is full disclosure the best policy? Sometimes, but not always. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. Mr. Lynch will now ask you a question related to your speech. The bell will ring and the timekeeper will raise the start card right after the question has been asked, and you'll have 1 minute to respond. Mr. Lynch, please.
Thank you. You described the content of popular magazines as teenage titillation, but it does sell. So who's to blame? Is it the publishers or is it the readers?
I think that it sells because it is in public entertainment, but the point that I was trying to make in my speech is that even though in this case, confidentiality has nothing to do with public interest, because it is for public entertainment and not for public interest that these people buy these celebrity magazines that reveal scandals. So yes, people buy them, and yes, it is both the people's fault for buying it and also the publisher's fault, but the ultimate point that I'm trying to make is that public interest is that in this scenario, confidentiality and public interest have no relation at all, which is why it is important, which is why confidentiality is more important here.
Thank you. A second question will now be asked by Mr. McLavin. Again, the bell will ring and the timekeeper will raise the start card right after the question, and you may then respond to the question. Mr. McLavin, please.
Thank you. Preschool education, as well as extracurricular activities and tutorials after class for school children, are very popular today. Do you think that this trend actually prevents children from enjoying their childhood?
Speaking from personal experience, I don't believe that it prevents children from enjoying their childhood, because most times when parents are attuned to their children's needs and to their children's wants and interests, the extracurricular classes that they attend actually help them and develop them in these interests. And even though there are obviously extremes in this situation where parents will force extracurricular activity upon activity on the children, when a balance is struck between extracurricular activities and enjoying childhood life, I don't think there's any problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Please take a seat.